Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kent Delamich with Cessna Flyer and Piper Flyer Associations. Tonight we have Amy Gesch, Product and Piston Sales Manager, and Brad Kutz, Vice President of Engineering at Wipaire. Tonight they will be discussing keeping safe, Wipaire's Cessna 206 cargo door solution. Here is Amy and Brad.
Thanks, Kent. Let me get our slides up here and rolling. All right, like Ken said, we're here talking about the cargo door solution for the 206. In these days, we've all been reduced to floating heads, it seems, in videos. So there's a picture of our floating heads if the Zoom one doesn't do it for you. Myself, I'm the Vice President of Engineering, and Kent had mentioned Amy Gesch is our Product and Piston Aircraft Sales Manager. I'll lead some of the discussion here. Amy is going to jump in to translate my geek speak if it doesn't come across, or to clarify any points. So we'll get going. So question of what are we doing here? Kent kind of alluded to it. Why are we talking about a door handle on a 206? Well, this was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. This the Canadian Air Transportation Safety Investigation report that's up there and cited. Float plane coming down, lost control on landing. Aircraft was submerged, and unfortunately there were 3 occupants that survived the crash itself, but drowned. They turned into fatalities because they weren't able to get out. And that's because the flap, and we got some more pictures, but the flap comes down, right? When you're in that landing configuration, your flap is down, which prevents the doors from opening fully in the back. Unfortunately, this one is the main reason that really urges on, but this has been going on for decades. This conversation has been going on for decades. This is the 206 was like this from the very beginning, and some regulatory agencies were never happy with it, Transport Canada being one of them. So Transport Canada, they issued an airworthiness directive, basically limiting the number of occupants in the rear. If the rear seat is occupied, you had to have a seat removed from that middle row, and they had a bunch of other requirements for pre-flight briefings, and showing the passengers in the back actually had to show that they could operate the door with it being prevented from being fully open. So it was quite a number of requirements put on the operator. So this is something actually at Wipaire, we have notes on a possible design for this, back 10, 15 years ago. But we kind of took it up and said, you know what, here's an opportunity we think we can add, deliver a good solution to our customers. This picture came right out of that that report that was cited. So go through in gruesome detail here. How do you open this door? Right, this is the rear cargo door. There's a forward and an aft door. So the front door must be opened, partially opened, to get access to the rear handle for the rear door. So the front door must crack open. The rear door handle must then be pulled down. That disengages a locking pawl on the top and the bottom of the door. And then the rear door must be pushed forward enough to get those locking pawls out of their receiver. And then if this front door can't open fully, then the rear door handle must then be pushed back in. Then you can actually get the rear door open, as long as the front door is pushed just far enough open. And I don't remember the exact measurements. I think it was 2.5 inches that you can open this door. So So what happens, right, when the flaps are down, this is something probably anyone that's on this podcast has seen, right? When the flaps are down, this front door then can only open up that 2.5 inches. So you must do that crack the front door, get at the rear door handle, push it open far enough, push the rear door handle in, and then push it forward to clear that flap. It's quite a process to do, and it only gets worse in an accident, right? When the adrenaline is going, some accident event just occurred. You're possibly upside down, you're possibly in the water. Talking with some of I think it was one of the FAA folks, he had mentioned that that one of the accidents they reviewed was actually a post-crash fire where there were fatalities because they couldn't get out because of this design. So less than optimum and difficult for customers, difficult for people flying and back, difficult to egress in an emergency, and even not in an emergency, right? You go walk around and look at 206s on the ramp, there's an awful lot of dings right around here on that door, and the corresponding witness mark on the flap corner as well. So little cutaway here just to get more in depth on what the existing door looks like. So there's slight variations through the years, but this is generally what it looks like. So here's that rear door handle. It's got the handle comes down, it engages some push rods that go up and down. So those push rods then actuate the locking pawls at the top and the bottom. There's a receiver right here for a pin to come in from the front door. And also that front door overlaps that rear door. So that's why that front door has to open enough. First of all, the receiver, the pin that goes into the receiver, and the front door actually overlaps the rear door to prevent, opening in flight. So what have we come up with? We went through what I would call a pretty typical design process. We identified some top level requirements, call them market requirements, to use as design goals. We wanted to install it within a day. We want a customer to be able to come into a shop, do the mod and fly out that day, not have to leave your airplane for multiple days. We identified some price points that we wanted to hit. Those things then drove us to some design requirements. Number one, we identified we wanted to minimize exterior painting. Some mods that we could do, would require some pretty extensive painting. Then you get paint matching, and are you just repainting the whole plane? And I got a stripe, and so we wanted to minimize exterior painting. Also minimize the interior modifications as well. We didn't want to have whole new panels, interior panels going in. We wanted to utilize the existing interior panels because, right, sun fade, it's tough to match some panels. It just adds extra time, adds extra parts. And also, we wanted to limit the modification to just that door, just that rear door. So we didn't, have a modification on the front door and the rear door and other parts and part of the fuselage, that kind of thing. And also we wanted to put a rear handle or an exterior handle on that rear door. Getting at it, accessing this in an emergency situation from the inside is important, but we've had, our products on aircraft that have crashed, and we've learned it's pretty important to be able to access. We want those first responders to be able to access the customer, the occupants inside. So what you see here is it's a photo rendering. We've had a number of mock-ups and prototypes. They aren't worthy of public consumption. They're a little bit rough. So this is basically taking those concepts in our design that we're implementing, putting it in Photoshop. What you're seeing there is a door handle. We've moved it from the rear, from the inside, the door sill of that rear door, up to the window area. There's a receiver. So there's a positive detent. The door handle fits in that receiver. So you need an action to take it out of the receiver and then use that handle to then, use those push rods to disengage those locking pawls. Locking pawls are the same. We didn't want to mess around with the door, the door locking mechanism like that. So those pawls still come out, they grab and they draw in. It's a really great way to really get that door nice and snug. And then, like you can see, we're putting a exterior handle on as well, so that emergency responders have access as well in a crash situation. So a bit of a cutaway. You'll see these are the parts we're adding. We've minimized changes, other changes. We're not using any other, OEM parts. Otherwise, that would drive the cost out of our price point. So like push rods, for example, right? So it used to be down here, the handle was, so there's a push rod going down, a push rod going up. Well, we kind of let this handle, the placement of it, we know where we generally wanted it, but we let it, the detailed design come out, and we just switched the push rods around. So the small one is used up here, large one is used down here. Again, just trying to minimize part count and part change as much as possible. And going through this whole process, engineering is about trade-offs, right? So it's that fine line of you want it easy to get out in an emergency situation for that emergency egress, but yet at the same time you don't want it to so easy to open that someone can inadvertently operate it in flight, especially in where it is. We try to tuck it away as much as possible and use that catch with the ball detent as a locking feature to make sure it's not used as a handle going in. Amy, anything to add? Anything I missed?
Yeah, I'd definitely point out that, we're trying to reuse a lot of the Cessna parts to keep the install simple, straightforward. The handle's, easy to operate in an emergency. You're still in a typical operational situation. You're still going to follow this similar procedure of opening that front door first and then opening the rear door. But this gives you an option both as an interior occupant to basically skip the step of opening the front door. We're not changing the way the doors overlap. That's important to note. So your front door is still what nudges that shut. And in that emergency situation, you can open the rear door and you can push it out. It's not your normal access, but as Brad mentioned, one of the really key features when we set up about the design objectives is, like you said, easy to operate. It'll be one-handed operation, upside down, inside out, in the dark, in the water. And then the exterior access was huge because some of the 206s, when you latch that door in front, it is latched. And as much as you want to get into that airplane as a first responder, it's not an option. So we wanted to balance those things out and give, occupants as many options as possible while keeping it low cost, easy to install, and low impact for the owners and operators.
So summarizing, playing off those high level design market requirements than our design requirements, we're sitting at looking at probably a 10-hour install time. Now, obviously, first one a shop does might be a little bit more, but we think it's a 10-hour install time is very doable. No changes to paint or upholstery. There's modifications, right? Obviously, to get that handle up, and we're providing a cover plate for the existing handle where it came from. But that third bullet point down there, that's key. We want it to be that 1 day of downtime. So you can come into a shop, you can get the job done, you can get out that same day. No real weight increase, parts coming in, parts going out. And we are putting in an optional external front cargo door handle. So right around the H model, that's not the exact cut in, but there's from the factory, they've started adding a front door handle. I got one slide on that after this, but we wanted to provide that option to customers so that, again, easy access for first responders to get into the aircraft and get at occupants if needed. Transport Canada. So AMOC, alternate means of compliance for that advisory, for that AD, Airworthiness Directive. So we do have a general agreement with Transport Canada. We haven't been in discussions with them. In fact, back when they were proposing this AD, so actually about a year ago, I was having some good discussions with them. We have a right-hand door mod that adds a co-pilot right-hand door. We have a slide at the very end. Amy's going to talk about that, but you know, we were talking about that as a possible alternate means of compliance for this AD. They did an assessment on it. They determined it's not a direct AMOC. But that opened up some good channels of communication. So we've run our design through with them. I've had good discussions with them, and we have a general agreement that this will be an AMOC. The STC is not done. We have a project open with the FAA. We've been working with the FAA on getting all our test plans in and all the certification fun that we do. We're anticipating next quarter we should have that STC complete, and we're looking at a $10,000 cost, and that's parts and labor. That's one of those design requirements we wanted to hit, was to make sure we didn't get above that $10,000 mark. So here's a picture I kind of alluded to, that front door handle. So if you go look at an H model 206, it's got a door handle on that front cargo. It's got an exterior handle on that front cargo door. We plan on putting one of those in as well, and using the same securing features. So some of the older models do have an exterior handle, but it is lockable. So you do have a key lock. And that actually prevents the exterior latch from operating. So if that is locked, you know, you don't have access from the outside. So similar to what's done in the late model aircraft, there will be a pin with a removable flight tag to go in for. So if you want to secure your airplane on the ramp, you can put this pin in. That will not allow that exterior handle to actuate at all. So you can still secure your aircraft. You take that pin out before flight, and then someone can access it from the outside. So that's a real quick summary on that exterior door handle. And while we're here talking about 206s, Amy's going to take a second to mention, I alluded to the optional co-pilot door. So go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, so this is an STC that Wipaire's held for a number of years and grew out of the need for added exit options in the 206, specifically from our background on floats. It's also extremely popular on land planes. As Brad noted, it doesn't qualify as an AMOC for the recently issued Transport Canada Airworthiness Directive. And the reason for that is that AD is targeted at the third row of seats, which is also why we targeted that rear cargo door, because that's the one that is most accessible to that third row of seats. You don't have to crawl over the middle row of seats to access the forward door or get to one of either the pilot side door or the co-pilot side door. All that said, you know, this is certainly something that is not only a tremendous safety addition for any 206, but also a great convenience. Don't ask me why Cessna never wanted to put a door on that side. There's many, many different design objectives that go into certifying an airplane and testing an airplane, but this has been one that it's been very popular on float planes and land planes alike.
So that wraps up our slide deck. Kent, I'll hand it back to you.
Right. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. I got my video on and everything. Okay. You guys, the first question I've got is from Frank. Let me just move this over a little bit. Does this solution address the front door needing to be opened before the rear door?
Yes, it does. So first of all, you're able to get those locking pawls disengaged. And then nextly, the front door or the rear door will shove open. As Amy mentioned, normal operation is you still open the front door and then you open the rear door. But in an emergency, we are making modifications. So I did mention there's a catch on the front door has a pin that comes in, and there is a receiver on the rear door. So we are making modifications to that receiver area so that when you do shove it open in an emergency egress situation, the front door will fully open, or the rear door will fully open, even when that pin is still engaged in the receiver.
Okay.
So short answer is yes. Long engineering drawn out answer was what I just said.
Good, good. Well, we appreciate both of them. Adam has a question. Will this mod be open to shops to purchase, to install, or must they come to Wipaire to install them?
This is something that is going to be able to be installed here, whether you want to bring your airplane here, or one of the other key design objectives is it has to be easily shippable, small, compact, put it in a box, send it to any corner of the world. So you will be able to install it in the field as well.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. Lisa, her question is, what is the cost for the co-pilot door solution?
The co-pilot door, there's a couple of variables. It can range from anywhere from about the low 30s to the high 30s, depending upon your aircraft configuration and a couple of the other options that you choose on the door. I mean, you are cutting a hole in the side of the airplane. So when you look at what we're doing on the rear cargo door, they're totally different scopes of work. The co-pilot door, however, is only installed here due to the specialized tooling and, the part where you're cutting a hole in your airplane.
Right. And that's a good point. I mean, that's something we've learned from. We have a lot of these, a 206 on the other side of the world, for example, right? There's an awful lot of craftsmanship involved in that co-pilot door mod. We wanted to avoid anything that required that craftsmanship and the special tooling and that kind of thing, which is what geared us, kind of led us towards the design solution that we did choose.
Okay, thank you. Frank has a question. So why hasn't Cessna addressed this issue?
I'll let you go ahead and talk to Textron Aviation about that. You look at the details. Transport Canada has never liked this, and it shows from certification bureaucracy that you can find that's publicly available. So I have no idea. Right.
No, we understand. Yeah, they have to be careful of how they present things. Let's see, a question from Jean. Does this AD, is it applicable to US registered aircraft as well?
Great question. The answer is no. It is a transport, it's a Transport Canada only AD. So if you're operating an N-registered airplane in Canada, I'm not quite sure how that works.
Okay.
But if you're operating an N-registered airplane in the US, the answer is no. And a common question is the FAA planning on a similar AD? Not that I'm aware of. I won't speak for the FAA. I will say that I've had conversations with the FAA. They've had conversations with Transport Canada. It seemed like they were not leaning towards an AD. In fact, there was a special airworthiness notification or something like that. I forget the exact term, but it was issued last February. It came out of the Wichita ACO office requesting information on this exact issue, requesting information from owners and operators if they have experienced this, if they had any concerns, that kind of thing. And as far as I know, that's as far as the FAA has taken it.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate that.
And Kent, one thing that I would add to that is just because at the moment and perhaps for the foreseeable future that it's not required, is it will be approved via supplemental type certificate. So while there's no requirement to do it, it's something that any owner here in the US or wherever the STC is accepted can do to increase the safety of their airplane.
Thanks, Amy. I think that's really going to be key as people look at this option and say, okay, safety is the biggest concern. Obviously, if you're on floats and you're upside down, you want to be able to get out. Or if you're in a cornfield or you're in a third world country in the back strip and you flip it and you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, basically, and you can't get out. But if you've got this option, it gets you out. So I think people look at that as a huge safety advantage. That plus your passenger door up in front you guys have, which is nice. So anyways, we had some questions come in before the presentation, which we will rattle some of those off also. These questions came in yesterday and the day before. Is this only useful for float planes?
Yeah, that's a pretty common question, and kind of, I think, as you had just mentioned, Kent, so the AD is applicable to all 206, whether they're on floats or on a land plane. And I had mentioned the one accident that the FAA contact that I was working with, he had talked about during his investigation that it was a post-crash fire that actually consumed an occupant that had survived the crash but couldn't get out. So it doesn't, and that was a land plane configuration. So it does enhance safety both in a float plane and just a land plane configuration.
Right. Okay. M. Mayberry has a question. What is the cost of just the kit, the kit, no labor, for the rear door mod? So for this 206 mod. We
don't have that finalized yet. As Brad mentioned, there is a target that we're working to meet that we believe is attainable. It will depend on the final costs of everything, but I can tell you that Brad and his team, as someone in sales who often complains about what engineering picks, they've done a really good job at, I see you rolling your eyes, but taking a really strong look at this to make it a very economical, simple to install system. So, there is a page on our website. You can certainly reach out to us to make sure that you're on our list for updates, but those details will be announced as we finalize them.
Okay, thank you. And for all those watching, also Wipaire, as soon as there's more press available, they will forward it to us, and we will have it in the magazines as well, on social media, the magazines everywhere, so we'll let everybody know. Let's see here.
Just one more point on that. As Amy mentioned, we don't have anything fully set up, but if you look at the data on this slide, or if people can still see the slide, we're estimating about a 10-hour install time. We're estimating a total cost of parts and install of $10,000. So someone could back out what they think normal shop rates are and subtract that from this cost, and you're probably going to end up with a good estimate of the kit cost.
Yeah. Okay, another question is the handle for emergency use only, or can you use it in everyday operation?
Sure. So it does get used in emergency operation or in everyday operation, but in everyday operation, the typical, it's going to be just like I think we had mentioned, open the front door, then open the rear door. You'll always want to open that front door first. You'll only want to open the rear door only in that emergency situation.
Okay, thank you. We have a new question from Frank. Based on WB, or weight and balance, I know of no 206s on floats that utilize a third row seat. So if the solution only resolves a third row issue, what's the advantage to float planes?
So you still have an additional point of egress for your people in the middle row. And keep in mind that this has been driven by Transport Canada, and Transport Canada's AD specifically applies to that third row of seats. Still going to be applicable to land planes, but in this case, it's an option for 206 owners and operators if it fits their mission and what their occupants are looking for.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see here. I believe you already answered this, but will this have to be installed by Wipaire?
Nope, we can send it to you in a box as well, and your local shop will be able to do it. We're not, we've specifically avoided anything exotic. As Brad mentioned, lots of parts reuse for what you already have in your 206 as well.
Great. And this one, I believe you answered, but I'm going to go through every one of these questions. In Canada, are you still required to install the service kit 206-40?
So yeah, the answer to that is no. There is a service kit out there that the AD requires you to install, which basically adds a spring to this handle to draw that handle in. So in that juggling of doors, you know, bringing that door handle in makes it a little easier. So the answer is no. In fact, if you did install that service kit, you'd actually be taking those parts out. You wouldn't need those parts to implement our modification.
Okay, good. Thank you for making note of that. Adam has a question. If you only open the rear door, is there any damage that can be done if you don't open the forward door?
Yeah, so the answer there is yes. Like I said, there is a pin that comes from this forward door that goes into the rear door. So we're modifying that catch to be able to get like a frangible link. So it would break when you push the rear door without opening the forward door. So we're going to have in our ICA, our instructions for continued airworthiness, you know, in the event that happens, there will be an inspection and there will likely have to be some parts that have to get put back in. Some small parts that are in that catch. So the answer is yes, there would be some damage, but it's also not so easy to do that if you lean on it wrong, you'll push it open. Again, that's that fine line of we want it easy enough to use in an emergency situation, but not so easy that an inadvertent activation occurs.
Right. Okay. Thank you. One of the previous questions, is it a AMOC for Transport Canada AD 2020-10?
Yeah, so I think I touched on that one previously. Right now, it's not. Right now, it isn't certified by the FAA. We do have. We are talking with the FAA to get the STC in place with the FAA. Then the next step is to get that STC validated with Transport Canada, and then work with Transport Canada to get the AMOC in place. And we've had discussions with all those entities. In fact, at Transport Canada, those are two separate entities, and we've been in discussions with both of those groups.
Okay, very good. And another question is, when do you expect to start installing these on customers' aircrafts?
I think on that one slide I mentioned next quarter, so second quarter of this year.
Okay. When installing this mod, do you know if it will have a positive effect on insurance rates?
This is a big question that's come up for a lot of safety enhancing modifications. And one of the fine lines that you need to walk with insurance companies is, at what point does an insurance company require something and mandate it versus when do they reward you for good behavior? And as we've explored other safety enhancements like our laser gear advisory system on whipline amphibious floats, is when we approached insurance companies, we said, hey, can owners and operators with this system, can they receive a discount? And at least at the time, the general temperature had been, now we're not going to give you a discount, we're just going to require it. And we don't want, there to be a mandate for every, 206 owner to have to go out and spend money that doesn't bring them value. So it's a good question, but I don't know that it's going to have a dramatic impact. Keep in mind that at the point that you're using this handle, you've probably already got a claim started.
Right, right. Um, uh, why isn't the optional front cargo door handle included in the mod?
It's an option just because it depends on how you want to use your airplane. With those older airplanes, they do have the exterior lock. Some operators really do like the ability to secure their aircraft from the outside. If you're running largely cargo, maybe you don't, run into that instance as much. It's also a different appearance. For the H model, it's very stock. If you have an older airplane, it's going to look a little bit different. So it's something that's there if you want it. You do secure it from the inside, as Brad noted, so you can still secure your airplane. But it's just something that we wanted to leave up to an individual owner's personal tastes.
Okay, thank you. And M. Mayberry has another question. If the rear door is opened in flight, will it break off?
I don't know if Brad wants to flight test that or not. It's
Yeah,
not something that you're going to inadvertently pop open. I guess, Brad, you can speak a little more to that.
So I will not guarantee anything. I will say there, if you do some Google searching on it, you will find some damage done where that scenario did happen, and it did not depart the airplane. I'm not saying that it would never depart the airplane, but I know of one case where I found on the internet where it did not. And in fact, we've had those have been some of our safety analysis discussions with the FAA of, okay, well, how many, again, that fine line, you want it easy enough to use in an emergency situation, but not so easy to use that you get an inadvertent use in flight. And then if it's too far down that road, then the FAA was saying, well, then you need to do an analysis on, what happens if will the door depart from the airplane? Will it hit the tail? What kind of damage would occur? And boy, there's an awful lot of variables there that I don't know how to really quantify. So my answer is, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a pretty safe answer. And I've got a question that with the modification to this for the 206 that you guys have, is there does the window need to be resealed, or is it compromised at all, or is it just left alone?
With this door handle mod?
Yes, with either one of the windows, back rear doors, do the windows have to be resealed?
No, and that's, so we aren't touching the windows, and that's one of the things that drove us to this solution. Some of the things we did evaluate were, you did touch the windows, and then you got the possibility of sealing it and cure times and not getting that correctly, and water ingress and that kind of thing. So we purposely steered clear of any solutions that did modify the windows.
Okay, great. And that is it for our Q&A. I think we've covered a lot of the scenarios and questions of cost. So I think we're pretty good. We might have another one. Oh, we have another question just came in from Adam. Or no questions. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, no questions. Thanks. Much appreciated from the Canadians group. Because the Canadian is just saying thank you for this presentation, basically. So yeah, we thank you guys. This is a great solution for a problem that's been around for a while. And I know you have mentioned, Brad, we're not sure why Cessna didn't address it earlier, but you guys do have a solution, and it is safe, and it works. So I'm sure that people on the state side, they're going to be following suit pretty soon too, just for the enhancement and safety. If because it always adds value to an airplane, I believe, having another safety measure. So hats off to you guys. Hats off to Wipaire for this. But at this point, I think we are good. I'm just reading everything real quick. I think we're good with Q&A. I'm looking at my chat real quick to make sure. This presentation will be on the YouTube channel for Cessna Flyer and Piper Flyer. We'll have it there probably next 4 or 5 days, roughly. And if any Wipaire's contact is there, if anyone has questions to Wipaire for Amy or Brad, get a hold of me, Kent. I'll be happy to forward you their contact. They're available Monday through Friday, obviously. And if there's any additional questions, just reach out to them. So at this point, I think we're good with everything. So I think we'll say goodnight to everybody. And we do thank you for your time, you guys. I know it's a little late for you guys in Minnesota, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us on.
You're very welcome.
Kent.
And we'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.